Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red.
It's really just the attitude that we got. I mean, nobody should be able to run the ball with us. That's our attitude. I mean, and they said they couldn't run the ball with us, and they got a few plays on some mistakes that we made in the air, and really everything they got was off the mistakes that we made. I mean, they're a good football team. I'm not going to take anything from them, but, I mean, we could have played a lot better.
Cody Glenn, all the way from Rusk, Texas, to the University of Nebraska, to the Redskins, to the Colts, and now you're at Super Bowl 44. Wow, what a wild, strange trip it's been for you.
Yes, it has. It's been a journey. It's been a long journey. It's been up and downs, but hey, we're at the Super Bowl. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more.
My name is Cody Glenn. My hometown is Rusk, Texas. This is my life, my health, my journey.
Welcome to the Forum, the show where we learn more about Husker Nation one fan at a time by asking them the same four questions. I'm your host, Honke, and our guest tonight is a former Husker. He has the rare ability to say he started on both sides of the football during his time at NU. As an I-Back, he carried the ball 143 times, racking up 14 touchdowns, 631 total yards. During his lone season as the Blackshirt, he had 51 tackles and one forced fumble. And he parlayed that defensive success into a pro career, getting drafted in the 5th round by the Washington Redskins in the 2009 draft. He'd go on to have a 3-year pro career that included playing in Super Bowl 44 with the Indianapolis Colts, and today he's an economics and government teacher and assistant football coach at Cypress-Fairbanks High School in the suburbs of Houston, Texas. Welcome to the Forum, Cody Glenn.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I was doing a little bit of research for tonight's show, and I looked up your bio on Huskers.com. And sociology major, volunteered your time visiting hospitals, read Read to Succeed book drive, your teammates program with Coach Osborne, where we had Coach Osborne on the show last year. He explained how they started up the whole teammates program. You were named to the 2008 Brooke Behringer Citizen team for your outreach work, and you were twice named to the Big 12 Commissioner's Academic Honor Roll. And I think what that kind of led me to think about is you're in the pro, you played here, you were in the pros. What made you want to get into the teaching and coaching that you're doing right now? And tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Cypress-Fairbanks.
So here at Cypress, I'm actually here now. I'm the head track coach as well. So we just finish up track practice and try to get those guys ready for the track meets that we have tomorrow and Saturday. But really with coaching, it was kind of one of those things that when I graduated high school, the coach that I had in high school was such a big impact on my life, is that I always knew this is what I wanted to do. Like my dream job per se was to coach high school football. I never thought I'd make it to the NFL or anything like that. Every kid thinks they will, but the reality of it, probably not. And so my dream was always to coach high school football, because that's what I wanted to do, because that's what he did. And so I knew I was always going to come back here and do that. And once I got finished playing, took a couple years off, and then I came back down here and ended up finding a really good school to coach at, and I've been here for the last 5 years. And I mean, it's been great. I love every day of it. Like, it's not like I'm working. I just try to impact these kids' lives as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. You're from Rusk, Texas. How far is Rusk from where you're at right now? Is that the same area?
No, so Rusk is about 2.5 hours from here. So just northeast from here is about 2.5 hours.
Okay. Well, we asked the same 4 questions on all these forums, but before we get to that, I want to give a couple of updates on what our upcoming shows are going to be. It starts with next Wednesday at this exact same time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on March 1st. We'll have Husk Johnny. He's a former walk-on, Iraq War veteran and a Husker fan. And we'll have Redcast Abby. She's been on before with the Husk Girls. That'll be 2 weeks from tonight, same time, Wednesday, March 8th at 8 p.m. And last but not least, the new Redcast store is out there. Redcasters, you can use the QR code. We've got all our shirts and sweatshirts and this hat that I'm wearing. They make all that good stuff there. Smack and Smooch. You can find that on our website or on our Twitter in our description. We have links to it as well. All right, well, let's get to the questions here. And for anyone that's been on the forum before, we ask the same 4 questions to everyone. Why are you a Husker fan? What is your favorite Husker fan memory? Who are your all-time favorite Huskers? And how do you think the Huskers will do this year? And what's interesting and what I really liked about having you on, Cody, we had Rob Zask on a year ago, but you're the second former player. And former players can be fans too. And they are fans. And we see them every day on Twitter and on social media, and they root, they get upset, they get happy, all those good things. So I think it'll be interesting to get your perspective on your fandom and how you started. So let's start right away with question one. Why are you a Husker fan?
Man, so the main reason, so obviously I became a Husker fan during the recruiting process. And Nebraska was my first recruiting visit of the 5 that we were allowed to have. And when I went there, I was there for a game, and I got there, and it's really just the fans, really. You hear that all the time, but like really, it was the fans. Like I'm there, I'm on the field, the game is going and doing warm ups and all that, and I'm down on the field, and there's like little kids in the stands that like knew who I was, and knew where I was from, and knew like some of my high school stats. I was like, dude, I'm one of 30 other recruits out here. I'm from this little small town in East Texas. Like, how does that little 11-year-old kid know who I am, where I'm from, what I've done? And it's just really just that pride about those fans, and what Nebraska football means to them. And so that's what sold me. That's how I knew it was really special, and that's kind of what made me become a fan.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned you're one of 30 recruits that were there. That's the recruiting class. That was the big 2005 one, the number one ranked one, I think, by Tom Lemming. You were one of, if I remember right, 3 running backs in that. There was Marlon Lucky, there was Leon Jackson, there was Chris Brooks at receiver, Harrison Beck is at quarterback, but heck, so was Zach Taylor. Defensively, Ndamukong Suh, Philip Dillard. I mean, that was a loaded class. What did it feel like to be part of that class? It was such a big class too. It was a kind of a transformational one of the Callahan era as they were moving into year 2. What did that mean to you?
Man, it was pretty special because with all those guys that we had coming in and understanding the talent that we had coming in, and what Nebraska was and what we wanted to do for Nebraska. So it became one of those things where all of us were there at the same time as far as the recruiting business and stuff, and we kind of got together and was like, man, this is a special place, and we can make it, try to get it back to where it was. And so a lot of guys bought in. And so it's like, man, we're going to come back here. We're going to do our best to make this, back to the old Nebraska. So I think that's what kind of got a lot of people to kind of buy in, and why that recruiting class was so special and has that kind of talent there, because, we kind of got together and said, like, let's go make this place special again. And that recruiting class was really special because, a lot of those guys, we still talk to this day. Like, I still talk to Sue this day. My friend David Harvey, I still talk to him this day. Philip Dillard, who's the funniest guy in the world, still talk to him every now and then. And you got all those guys that we played with, and it's special whenever it's 15 years. I don't know however long it was that we left. Dang, I feel old, but however long it was that we left, like you still talk to those guys and you still keep up with those guys. So it's pretty special.
I think about it. I grew up during the Osborne era, the 80s and the 90s. And for 25 years, now I wasn't alive for all 25 of his years when he was coaching here, but for 25 years, I was 20 when he retired, and I was at UNL at the time. But we had one coach for 25 years. So now we've gone 25 years since, and we're on to our 6th coach since. And so there's been these different eras. I'm really interested in what was Coach Callahan like as a coach and playing for him, being recruited by him? What was that era like? It was 4 seasons here. You got 3 of those years, and then your last season was with Coach Pelini. But what was the Callahan era like those first 3 years for you?
Man, it was different just in the the sense of it was almost more business like. I think with Callahan, you got in the meeting room with him, and from football, there was not a smarter person that I've ever met that knows football, X's and O's, like offensive lineman. Like he was a guru at that, running schemes and different things like that. Like it's the smartest guy to this day that I've met as far as offensive schemes and stuff. I just think with that staff, the biggest, separation from them and Pelini was like the relationship with players. And, I think a lot of those guys that kind of came from the pros, and they didn't really have that those relationships. They didn't really build those relationships with the players. I understand, like, I mean, we're still 18-year-old kids, and we just left home for the first time. I mean, I'm, hundreds, almost 1,000 miles away from home, and I don't have that support that I grew up with and I'm used to. So, I'm looking for that, and they wasn't there. What you would expect, I didn't really get that from them as far as what I would expect, especially with the relationship that I have with my high school coach. And so that was the main difference, is those relationships that they built with the players. It just really wasn't there.
Mm. I have a follow-up to this, but I think I'm even going to hold on this one until the last question, because the last question, when we start talking about Nebraska today and the changes, I think some of the things that you guys went through back in 07 to 08 with coaching transitions, position changes, I'm really interested to get your perspective as we move to that. But let's go to question 2. What is your favorite Husker fan memory?
Oh, man. I don't know if it's as a fan, but obviously, like, when I was playing, is I was just thinking of the game, and obviously one of my better games at running back, because we went and played Ohio State in Ames. Is it Ames? Yeah, in Ames, Iowa. It was like Thursday night or maybe Saturday night. I don't know. But it's a night game. It was on TV. It was on ABC. And I think so funny story that I don't even think our equipment manager people know this, but so the week before, who do we play? I have to look it up and see who played. But the week before we played Iowa State back in 2006, I think it was like October 2006, right around my birthday or something. And I didn't play much the game before that, and I was pissed off. I was mad, and so in my mind, I was like, I am leaving. I'm done. So I took my jersey, all my stuff. I'm leaving, and then going into that week, State sort of turned around. Coach Jordan's like, okay, this is gonna be your game. Blah blah blah. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I forget that I took my jersey. And so we get to Ames, Iowa, and we get ready for the game, and the equipment guy calls me like, "Oh, where's your jersey?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." So they ended up. So we had this guy named Grant Mulkey. I don't know. He was a receiver for us, and he was 84. And for some reason, he didn't travel to that game. And so we ended up having to take his jersey and make that 8 into a 3. I had to wear that jersey. So if you see any game in 2006 prior to the Iowa State game, I had cuff sleeves. In that game, I didn't, because that was like the one that Moki had. And so I was like, oh crap. So I ended up playing in that game with that jersey, having the best game that I ever had as a running back. And I was like, I don't think I ever told him that. And I never wanted to change the jersey because obviously I had a really good game in it. So that's probably one of my favorite memories from when I was playing there.
I totally have to look that up now. Now I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
Staying in that same year, 06, I guess I've never done this on any of the forums, but I'll say one of my favorite fan memories, and it has to do with a game you played in and a game you did well in, at A&M that year. The memory of it being the Maurice Purify last second catch. Nebraska wins 28-27. Zach Taylor takes us down the field. In that game, you had 6 carries, 25 yards, but 2 of those 6 carries go for touchdowns.
Yeah.
This is where our seats were. We're 4 rows up in that southwest corner, right in the end zone. I want to say one of your touchdowns, I think, was right in front of us, almost like we could reach out and grab you. But as you look at the photo on the left, looking across the field at the opponent's side of the, there's probably 30,000 cadets there, and we had the worst seats in the country for that catch that Purify had, because he's 100 yards down the field from us on the same sideline with, I think that would have been A&M's bench in between us. So I couldn't see it. So all I was doing during that play was I just looked across the field. I looked at their sideline, and you see 30,000 people with those white flags, and they're spinning them around. And all of a sudden the place goes quiet, and you saw 30,000 flags stop. And I was like, well, I don't know what happened, but it was probably pretty good for us. One of those two things. But this is me with a Redcast Boomer. So a Boomer, part of the Redcast there. That was us back in 2006. And here's one of those 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
What did that feel like, playing in that game, being a part of that, having 2, again, we scored 28 points and half of them came from you there. What did that
Yeah.
feel like there in that game?
Man, that game there was amazing. And that probably would have been I was debating when I looked at the questions to see like which one, because that was like the next one that I would have picked, because I remember that game, night game, and Purify and Taylor, and he catched that ball to win it, and it was amazing. And I'm back home in Texas. College Station for me is 2.5, maybe 3 hours away. So my entire family is there. And so to be able to get the ball and score 2 touchdowns and have a pretty good game. And I mean, it was amazing. And that game in itself was just, it was great with the back and forth and being able to win it the way that we did win it. It was awesome. It was one of my, greatest memories from being at Nebraska was that game. That was one of them.
Well, over the years, we've gone to a lot of away games. And, and certainly in recent years, they haven't always gone our way. But, and I have people that'll say, like, are you going to stop going to games? Is it my fault, Honke, that I'm going to away games? That's why we're losing. I'm like, no, number one, no. And second off, you go as a fan, you go to games because of moments like that. That was an amazing weekend. Boomer and I, we had our wives with us that weekend to go down there. We stopped at Baylor along the way in Waco on the drive down and went to the old Floyd Casey Stadium, walked in there like on a Friday morning, and they were playing a game the next day, and they just, they let you walk on the field. And the game at A&M, that was the last game of the season for them, and at home, at least. That was their last home game. And I think they were changing the turf, if I remember, after that season. So they actually allowed for almost no one gets to do this. We got to walk out onto the field afterwards because their field was sacred. After the game, they don't let, fans come on there, but we got to just walk out there, and I'm on the 50-yard line right after the game. The amazing feeling, the euphoria of the win. And the other thing is, Nebraska fans, we had our love-hate relationship with Texas, the Longhorns. But I have to say, A&M fans were, I thought, amazing. It was a great environment. College Station was super cool. And so, we even went the night before to the yell thing that they do. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great environment, and it was really cool. And you had a heck of a game in that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that was a good time. I'm gonna move this over because my computer's about to. I need to put my charge on. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. All right. Yeah, but yeah, no, just going back to that game, that was like one of the most fun I've had in college football, just playing. And got another funny story with that, because so some of my family, like my grandma, for instance, she was at home, she's watching the game, and when I scored that first touchdown, kind of where y'all were at, I was all excited, and I don't know how they can hear me on TV, maybe because I was right there by the mic or whatever, and I was like, let's go, let's effing go. And my grandma can hear me on TV, like she heard it. And so after that, because I think that game was like in November, early November, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. And so when I went home between that time and the bowl game, whatever, and I went to see my grandma, she had a belt waiting for me. I'm an 18-year-old, I think I was a 19-year-old college football player, 6'1", 225, big dude. I go home, my grandma, she put that belt on me. Don't you ever talk like that. I was like, oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I just had to take it. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, college football player getting a belt by my grandma.
That was great. Hey, the Redcast is a mostly PG-13 show, so I think this is she'll appreciate if she's watching. So
yes.
Well, let's go to question 3 here. And who are some of your all-time favorite Huskers? And before I even get your answer here, I have to look at your description there, and it's your mother's favorite player. Where does that come from? Because that's on your Twitter description, and we put that on our graphic of you. So your mother's favorite player, where is that from?
Man, it's from when I first got there, and it was in the running backs room, and I can't remember if it was Marlon or Leon or maybe it was Dane Tyler. It was one of those guys, and we was kind of jibber jabbing back and forth. And I was like, "Man, I'm everybody's favorite player. What are you talking about?" And they was like, "Oh, no, you're not," or something. I was like, "Ask your mom." And then just college kids making stupid jokes, and then from now on, when I would see one of them, I was like, who's your mother's favorite player? Who's your mother's favorite player? And they would hate it, but that's kind of where it came from. Just kind of messing with those guys in the running backs room back freshman year.
Mm. Well, I ask this question every time, and it's always interesting to get the perspective of fans from different generations. We've had older fans, younger fans that, who's your favorite player usually is somebody that you kind of grew up watching or whatever. So I'm interested with you. As you said, you kind of became a fan as you were getting recruited. And then now that you've been a part of the program for about 20 years, I'm interested to hear your answer here. Is one of your favorite players? Is it someone you played with? Is it someone you were recruited with? Is it someone that came before you here, or someone since?
Man, I think it's actually got a couple. Like obviously, so before me, one of my favorite players was Greg Wistrom. Like he's just a guy that he just did everything the right way. And you admire and you respect that. Every day in and day out. All the stories you hear from people. Never heard anything bad. Like he just did everything hard, 100% every single day. And I just kind of respected that, admired that, and just kind of watched him over that. And then when I first got there, freaking Adam Character. He's just one of my favorite people. He's like the big, just looks like a freaking monster. Like he's just huge. But man, he's the nicest dude you ever meet. Like his wife's small and she's the sweetest, and he's just one of the most genuine dudes that I met whenever I was playing there. So I mean, you can't help but to be a fan of his. And then obviously Sue, like obviously me and him are really really good friends. We was good friends there. So we still talk with him, and he's got his twin boys and his wife now, and he's always been a fan of his just because like I was around him a lot, worked out with him during all season and stuff, so you can see like his grind and what it meant to him and his dedication to it. So I mean, you can do nothing but respect that. So obviously, big fan of his. And then later years, man, two guys, Rex Burkhead and Amir Abdullah. Those guys, like man, they're special, and just the way they did it, like you never hear either one of those guys, be rah guys or me guys. And even to this day, if you go look at their Twitter or Facebook or somewhere, you're gonna see something Nebraska. And so that Nebraska means a lot to them. They did things the right way, and they freaking heck of ball players. And you respect guys like that, and guys that do it the right way, and just that are really really good players, and they love their alma mater. And that's kind of the things that kind of get lost in the shuffle nowadays with this portal and all that stuff, is that pride for their school. And with those guys, you see it, it. Like anywhere they go, you're going to see some Nebraska stuff on them, I'm sure. So I think those are probably the guys that I'm the biggest fans of.
Well, and Redcast Rob, who's taking care of our comments and everything, he's a Raiders fan, and as he posted there, Abdullah right now is currently with the Raiders. And speaking of Texas, Rex Burkhead, there's a Plano, Texas kid, right? So I mean, that was something that Nebraska, and I think we might touch on this here as we move forward. Nebraska's had a history of going into Texas and getting Texas players, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how Coach Rhule, what happens moving forward with that. But some of the guys you mentioned there, I mean, those are some great players there.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I never want to rush through the first three questions, but I really want to get to the fourth one always. And I'm really excited to have this one with you here to talk about how do you think the Huskers will do this year? I mentioned earlier that you have some very unique experiences, I think, as a former Husker. You were here during a transition, so you know what it's like to go from one coach to the next. You know what it's like what these players are doing right now in their first offseason, learning a new strength and conditioning coach, learning, new offenses, new defenses. One of the things that Coach Rhule has talked about is there might be players switching positions. That's conceivable. You didn't just switch positions, you switched sides of the ball, going from I-back to linebacker. So maybe as we get started with this, let's start at that point. Give us a little bit of your perspective on what you're seeing right now from a transition standpoint, and maybe what are these players going through, because you've already you went through the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think with what Coach Rhule and the staff is doing right now, everybody's buying in and they're believing. And I think they've gained that trust from those players and the players that they're bringing in, that they're going to do whatever in the best interest of the players in the program. They're not going to go to anybody and say, hey, you need to switch to get them to just to switch. You need to switch because it's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for the program. And so I think right now, building those relationships with the current guys and then getting the guys in that they want is a really, special time right now as well, because now if you build that trust with those guys that's coming in, the guys that are already there, just going to kind of make the future in the transition a lot more smoother.
Mm-hmm. I think about one of I've brought this up on the show before. So I would go to coaches clinics, but the spring coaches clinics from the last year of Solich all the way through the Frost era up until COVID. And then I haven't gone the last year when they started back up. But so that's in the spring, and we'd watch a practice and do everything. I'm well known on the show saying that I'm kind of anti-green jersey sometimes with quarterbacks, especially if there's a quarterback competition. But I have a point to it. It would have been, I think, it would have been the spring right before you started, actually, because Zach Taylor would have just come in. He would have been in there over that off season. So I think you're probably coming about a month or two later in the summer.
Yeah.
Okay. And we walked into this 200 play, 2-hour-long scrimmage. And you mentioned Adam Carricker. He's one of the guys, and Jay Moore and Lakeven Smith and Titus Adams and Stuart Bradley, that whole defense. They went out there and there was no green jerseys, 200 plays. And at the beginning of that practice, Joe Daly is the starting quarterback. And he looks great in all the drills. Everything he does, he throws the perfect passes, but you get out there and you start playing the football and he starts getting hit. Taylor gets hit, but Taylor starts to get into a huddle and calls the play and completes the next 7-yard out and just kind of moves the ball. And you start to see over the course of this practice a change happen. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, this can't happen if we don't play real football.
Exactly.
Coach Rhule has talked about one of the things he wants to do is implement physical football in spring ball in the competition. How important do you think that is? Maybe even from what you've seen from close or from afar. I don't know how close you've been the last few years watching things, but how different do you think that can make things getting into spring ball and seeing the physicality get out there in that competition with the players?
Oh man, that's such a big thing, because you also win a lot of respect with your other teammates from the quarterback position. You take that jersey off, and guys know, like, I'm not gonna grab this guy and drive him down to the ground, but like, he's gonna know I'm there, and I'm gonna give him something, especially when you got running quarterbacks and stuff like that. And you also get some of those quarterbacks that's gonna let you know, like, hey, I'm not scared. I'm not gonna shy away from it. And if you get one of those guys and they go and they take a little shot, but they jump their butt back in the huddle and they ready to go, like, that tells you a lot about that guy. Okay, if he's doing that in spring practice, in the fall, we can go win with that guy. And so that really shows the character of a lot of guys. I mean, you sit back there, you're not going to get touched, and you just got to throw the ball around here and there. Yeah, you got a great arm, but what happens when Adam Carricker, somebody is coming around that edge, you're going to fold up, or you're going to tense up, and now you're going to throw a pick or something. And so I think it's important, especially in the spring, to kind of see what you have as a team. I think that's when you kind of find your leaders and your captains, going into the fall, because when stuff hits the fan, who's going to step up and who's going to be those leaders. Like, we don't need a rah-rah guy or anything like that. You need somebody that's going to step up in certain moments. And as a coach, when those moments are happening, and those guys are stepping up. When everything is good, anybody can say, let's go and let's do this and that. When things are not good, who's going to rally the troops together? And so that's why I think spring ball is so, so important to, establish those leaders, establish who's going to be the guy, who's going to be the quarterback, who's going to be, whatever positions that, make fighting for.
That's interesting talking about spring ball that way, because, we live in a world today now of NIL, transfer portal. So football's different from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But at the same token, Coach Rhule has talked about he wants this to be a developmental program. And we've kind of talked on our show about what does that mean? What does a developmental program mean in today's football? And the first thing to me that comes to mind is you've got to be here now. You have to be here during this time of the year. Spring ball is that important. The off season, the strength and conditioning, the mat drills, all those things. And I'm not singling out players from a year ago or 2 years ago, but if a player got here in the summer, or we had one transfer from Texas Tech, defensive tackle, great. I'm sure he's a great player, but he got here in August. The acclimation period to expect a guy to come in and play right away, it just seems like how do you build that teamwork? How do you understand the playbook and all the concepts? And so if you want to be a developmental program in this today's NIL transfer portal world, I don't know how you can do it without being here now.
Yeah, you have to be there. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of hard to fathom as, from when I was playing to what it is now, is to not go through spring ball and not go to, summer conditioning and just show up in August or something like that. Like, it's still a team thing. Whenever they take that team aspect out of it is when, you're not as successful. And when I say team, is you're there every single day. Like, the guys that I was with when we played there, what made it so special is, all right, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock. I'm going to see your face. I might get tired of seeing it, but I'm going to see your face. All right, we're going to go to chemistry. I'm going to see your face. I get tired of seeing it, but I'm going to see your face. Okay, we got weight room at 11 o'clock. I'm still going to see your face. We're there every single day. All right, we got a study hall at 3 o'clock. All right, I'm still going to see your face. We there. I'm still seeing you. 6 o'clock, we got to go to dinner at the, I forget what it's called. Crap, what's the
Like
hall?
the Hewitt Center or whatever it was.
The Hewitt Center. All right, 6 o'clock, we're at the Hewitt Center. I still see your face. I'm tired of seeing you, but I still see your face. We're still talking. We still there. That's 12 hours most days when you with this guy. You get to know this guy. You know what he does. You know who he eats. You know his family. You know all this. And when you invest in your teammates like that, it means a lot more. And so, like, you go into the season with those guys, like, he's a family. When you say, oh, we're a family, if you're not there, you're not part of the family. But when y'all there every single day, y'all investing, y'all running together every day, y'all lifting weights every day, you tired, half sleep in the meeting, he hit you and wake you up every single day. Like, y'all doing those things every single day, you invested, that's when you have those really good teams. And I think that's what, a lot of college football is getting away from, is getting away from that. And those teams that are really good right now, they have that and they are playing for each other. So I think that's the biggest difference right there.
That it's a non-negotiable that we have to have that if we're going to, we hear so much about culture and building culture, but like one of the first big wins that Coach Rhule talked about that he kind of had with the team back in November, December, when he first met with them, was the feedback. And whether the feedback's right or wrong, some of the feedback they had was the players didn't like the food. And what they would do is they'd go into the Hewitt Center, they go in and get their food and then walk out and have a to-go thing and take it somewhere and throw it away and not eat it. Okay, well, Coach Rhule, an early win with the team was, okay, we're going to change the food. And they made some changes. And so good, the food's going to be better, but you're also not taking that to go anymore. You're going to eat it here in the facility. We're going to eat together as teams, as brothers. This is how we're going to build that brotherhood, build that teamwork, build that camaraderie, is something as simple. I mean, as simple as just being together.
Yes.
I mean, and it's a non-negotiable. When I think about the Nick Sabans of the world and the guys that are winning a whole bunch of championships, they're probably doing all those things too.
Absolutely. Because I can still remember, vividly, like sitting down at the Hewitt at my table after going through and, picking my food and sitting down and, I was kind of big then, so I couldn't get certain things that was certain colors or whatever. I still remember that. So, and going to sit down and, making sure like the volleyball girls sit over there. So I had to make sure I sit across from them so I could, see them and all that. Sure. I remember sitting in there with, teammates and stuff, eating and just hanging out and just, just having fun and, talking about who's pretty, who's not, and what date you're going on, and knowing like, okay, 7 o'clock, Dennis LeBlanc is going to come in here and make sure we freaking go to a study hall over there. And I got a tutor at 6:30 or whatever. So you knew you're going to sit over there, you're going to eat with your boys, you're going to hang out, you're going to have fun, you're going to build those relationships, you're going to go to study hall, then you're going to go home and do it all over again tomorrow. But you get that with those guys and you build those relationships. And man, that's so important. That's so important.
Well, I think another important thing, and I really want to get your perspective on this, is the strength and conditioning changes from one to the next. So I'll give a little bit of background here. I talked with one of the former offensive linemen who he just left the program just after the season, but we were talking about, I asked him, how's the new strength and conditioning going? And he said, oh man, it's different. They're doing a lot more flexibility, kinesiology, that kind of thing. And the last thing he's going to do, he wasn't going to crap on the former strength coach. He was like, look, he got us big, he got us strong, but this guy's going to do something different with us. Okay. I go back and I think about you guys, and you had Dave Kennedy, and then you had James Dobson. And tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong here on it. But as I recall, when Dobson got in there, first off, there were some fairly easy changes. Like I remember Dillard, they tried to make him into a middle guard that one year, like in 2007. So he was like 270. And they're like, yeah, we're going to get him, some weight loss. Sue got a little bit big there, I thought, too, kind of by 2007. They were, and he, transformed his body. But I even remember Dobson saying defensive backs, they were tight in the hips. And that was something they really focused on that first offseason, and it got them looser. And by 2008, that defense that had given up 60 points to Colorado at the end of 2007, that's the same defense, the same players that are there in 2008 and 2009 as this defense gets good. So that's a very long way to go around this and say, how much difference can we expect with a different mindset of strength and conditioning? What are the players going through right now? And what are some of the differences that we could see next year and in the years to come?
Man, and I think what the guy you was talking about is it's going to be. It was a very similar situation as far as when I was there and we had that transition. I love Coach Kenny to death, great guy, and yes, I got stronger. Like I think I was a lift of the year, like squat like 705 pounds or something like that. Like it was awesome for what we was doing, and that's all I knew. When Coach Dobson came in, like it was totally different. And it was almost to the point where it's like, man, am I really getting something out of this? Because we was focused on flexibility, and it wasn't like, let's put 1,000 pounds on your back. Okay, let's put, 50% of that, but let's go down and let's come up fast. Let's do let's do eccentric and movements and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, pressure. Let's do quicker stuff, longer rest, fast stuff. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna trust the process. And it worked. Like, I even just, for me, just thinking about, my situation is, I went from, being the stiffer bag that I didn't really have much wiggle. Like I just go straight downhill. And if you're in my way, you better get on you're going to probably get ran over. But on the defensive side of it, I just felt like with what we started doing with Coach Dobson and the flexibility and not, having as much weight on our back and, having more, explosive movements. That was the big thing. Explosive movements, low reps, being more explosive. Everything just changed. Like I felt more athletic. I felt looser. I felt, I had some, hamstrings when I was first playing the running back, but I felt healthier. I didn't have any, tight muscles or anything like that. My hips was free. Like just in general, my entire body just felt better doing that. So I think with what the guys are about to experience now with the new strength coach and what he's going to be doing, man, it's just going to help those guys be more fluid and more athletic and not have as many injuries. And with that, guys just going to play better. I feel they will.
Well, I'm interested to see what they even start to look like in spring because I mentioned I go to those spring clinics, and I recall 2008 like it was yesterday. And seeing the first guy that I saw come out of the tunnel when we were down there on the, all the coaches are down there on the field when you guys are practicing. And first guy that came out was Sue. And I mean, it was only, 3 months after or 4 months after the end of the season, but he came out and physically he looked transformed. He almost looked skinny. It was weird. Like, but by Sue's standard skinny, his arms are still, big as tree trunks and everything, but he looked really trimmed down. And you saw that with a number of guys. You just saw that there was some physical trait differences. And you kind of mentioned there the flexibility difference that you started to feel. Honestly, that was a knock on the offensive line. I just happened to be talking to an offensive lineman at the end of the season. But the offensive line last year, it's not lack of recruiting accolades. There's 3 guys on that offensive line that were top 100 recruits. And their guys are 6'8" and 6'9" and huge dudes. But it seemed like they lacked some of the mobility or some of the flexibility. And that's what kind of I'm maybe starting to create a narrative that isn't there. I don't know, but I'm starting to think like, is this something that can we see a guy instead of the mentality that we have to replace players. The only way we can get better is we have to find someone else who's better. Sometimes it's like, Sue wasn't too bad. Cody Glenn wasn't too bad, but you know what? Maybe he doesn't play running back. Maybe he plays linebacker. Maybe we move guys around. Maybe let's get Dillard back to a middle linebacker and get him into middle linebacker size. And holy smokes, before you know it, these same dudes are leading that 2009 defense that had so many of the same guys that were playing in Colorado in 2007. But that 2009 defense is the best defense I've probably seen Nebraska ever have. And I've watched all the 90s ones. I don't know that any one of them are better than 2009.
Yeah, like that was a very, a really special unit that we had there. And I think a lot of us just bought in to what Coach Dobson was doing. And yeah, like you said, like even with the guys we got now, it's not really always a lack of talent. It's just kind of, trying to put things together. If you're offensive lineman, you got to be able to bend. And if you can't squat down and put your behind to your ankles, and we got some problems. We got to be able to do that. You got to be able to open those hips up, get down the line, move. And if you're doing a bunch of heavy, squat, you're on a BFS system or whatever the case may be, it's hard to do that. But I guarantee if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles O lineman and you see what they're doing, I bet they're not doing any of that crazy stuff because those big jokers can move. And so when you make some of those changes, you evaluate some guys' skill set based on who they are now, maybe not where they were when they came out of high school. Because guys develop differently. And that guy that was a 3-4 star running back coming out of high school, he might be a 4-star linebacker now, or that D tackle might be a 5-star right guard now. Just because that's. And having fresh eyes from new coaches, being able to see those guys, it's going to allow them to evaluate those guys differently than what they were. Because when you with somebody and they already at this position, that's all you see them as. But now with this new coaching coming in, they can see different things that maybe the other coach was kind of blind to because that's what they knew. And so I think that's going to open up some eyes. That's going to allow some guys to get more opportunities.
That's the perspective I'm kind of interested in, because when a new staff comes in, again, there's different staff mentalities, and we've joked about Dion a little bit at Colorado. He came in there and said, if you don't like it, get into the portal. Yeah, get in the portal if you don't like it. But he's not the first coach to ever make those statements either. I love the fact that Nebraska has 103 guys right now. I'm glad nobody got ran off yet. Let them go through the process. Let them go through mat drills. Let them go through spring ball. And we'll see who there's going to be someone that surprises us, that comes out of nowhere and surprises us. And there's probably going to be a player that we think is a guaranteed stud, going to be the starter at some spot, and he doesn't make it, and that's okay. All of that's okay. It's part of the process. You said trust the process earlier, and that's kind of the process that we're going through with the transition.
Exactly. Because you're going to have a lot of kids that come in, and I know, especially just thinking about it, my situation was when those new coaches came in, I was like, man, this is opportunity. There's another kid out there right now on that roster that's seeing this as an opportunity that maybe they didn't get before, that they've been waiting for, and they know that they have the talent, and maybe it hasn't been seen, or that they can do it somewhere else. So there's a guy that right now that's hungry and that's waiting to show their talent. And next fall, we're going to know who that guy is. And that's what's going to be special about this transition, all those guys there and staying there and working and stepping up to those challenges and taking advantage of the opportunities that they're about to get. Like there's a guy. I'm waiting to see who that guy's going to be, but I'm telling you, there's a guy that we don't know right now, but in the fall, he's going to be a dude.
Oh, I love that. Well, you mentioned a dude. You mentioned Dane Todd earlier as you were talking about your mother's favorite player, and he's a fullback. And Coach Satterfield, the new offensive coordinator, he's talked about the fullback being a part of this again. We don't have a current fullback, at least somebody from a year ago that's on the roster. So that could be somebody moving from a position, someone seeing an opportunity. That'll be a lot of fun. You're coaching high school right now. What do you, being a high school coach, are you specific to a couple positions, or are you kind of all across the board with what you're coaching? What do you do at Cypress-Fairbanks?
So our school, it's 3,500 kids there. It's a 6A, biggest classification in Texas. We got 16 coaches on staff. So I'm the running back coach. We got a quarterback coach, an O-line coach, an OC. We got a ton of coaches. But I'm the running back coach here. And so I got all the running backs and fullbacks. We actually have a fullback in our system. A lot of Huskers don't have fullbacks anymore. But we play with tight ends, fullbacks, 21 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 10 personnel. Like we can go all personnels because we that's what we do. And we have D1 tight end. We have 2 D1 receivers. We got a quarterback that just committed to UT. I tried to get him to Nebraska, but I couldn't convince him to go up there. But like we got some really good kids. But yeah, so I do the running backs here, and we got another running back that's a D1 running back that's a sophomore. So yeah, we got some kids here.
Yeah, well, I just 2025 defensive line prospect Landon Rink.
Yeah, Landon Rink
just got a Nebraska offer in addition to a number of other top P5 offers. So
yeah, and he is a dude. Like he is the real deal. Like that kid is. I mean, he's like number 53 in his class, regardless of position, I think. And his dad actually coaches here with us as well. And he's like our co-DC. He played D-line at UT. But, I mean, this kid is a man-child. Like, I don't know. You see Little Giants. What's the kid name on Little Giants? I know Icebox was the girl. What's the I forget the kid name.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, bro? That's who he is. Like, golly, he is an animal, and he loves it. Like, we had to kick him out. Like, he loves it. He'll live up here if he could. Yeah, so people.
Well, up here in Nebraska right now, we're hearing a lot with Coach Rhule and the new staff. Bob Wager was the head coach at Arlington Martin, and you have Garrett McGee is the son of the head coach at Texas Tech, who was a high school coach that Coach Rhule brought up at Baylor. And so we're hearing a lot about Texas high school football right now in this state. Give a little bit of perspective to the listeners, to the viewers. What is Texas football like, Texas high school football like, especially at the highest level, like you said, 6A? We've talked about spring ball at Nebraska, but there's spring ball down there. I mean, what is it like, being a part of the highest level of Texas high school football?
Man, football down here, I mean, you hear about it, you see Friday Night Lights, and you see all this stuff, but man, it's kind of a code down here. I mean, it's a year-round thing. So, I mean, if you just go on a schedule right now, so right now we're in track season, off season, and 707 season pretty much. And then we'll go April 21st April 21st, we start spring ball. We get 18 practice over the course of 30 days. So, I mean, that's like a full fall camp. So we get 18 practice over those days. And, I mean, we get after it. And now we can see like some of our young guys, and we answer questions as far as who's going to be this position, who's going to be this position. So now you went from 707 to spring ball, and now going into the summer, we pick back 707 up. You got strength and conditioning camps. And that's like the kids come up 3 days, 4 days a week, 3 hours a day, running, lifting, football every single day, 4 days a week. And then you go and you get 4th of July off, and then you get the last week of July off, and then we start back up second week of August, and we get after it all the way, hopefully until December. Get a couple weeks off, then we back in January, back in off season, and it just starts all over again. And that's just the way it is because everybody's doing it. So if you want to be competitive, that's what you have to do. And so it's a really, really big deal down here.
Well, this actually, you just set me up perfect for, you were in an article a couple weeks ago, Evan Bland, World Herald, and it was Nebraska's winning over Texas high school coaches, including former Husker Cody Glenn. I want to read a little piece of this because I think this gives a good perspective on the state of Texas, the high schools there. It says that Glenn felt that the old familiar game day jolt last weekend while attending a regional meeting as a member of the Texas High School Coaches Association. The running backs coach heard Susan Elza address a crowd in Nebraska as Nebraska's chief of staff 1 year after she commanded a room of 200 to 300 coaches at a director of athletics for the University Interscholastic League, the governing board of the state's high school activities. Glenn heard 24-year-old Husker receivers coach Garrett McGuire talk too. Coach Matt Rhule spoke at another regional site that day, prompting the president-elect there, Kendall Miller, to tweet, "Nebraska is the Big Ten school of Texas." The Nebraska staff is planning to be at statewide coaching clinic in San Antonio this summer that annually draws thousands. And then, Cody, you went on to say, whatever Elza says and Rhule says is golden, and we can trust that. A lot of it last weekend was reaching out to these high school coaches in Texas and earning that trust as Nebraska comes back down to the state of Texas to start recruiting. We feel comfortable sending our kids out there because we know they're going to be taken care of. I mean, how much does that mean that these guys in Nebraska, they've been going out to schools in Nebraska, and that's meant so much to our local coaches. But what does that mean to you down there when you're seeing, McGee and Elza and all the Wager, all these coaches making that emphasis down here?
Oh man, it's huge because I mean, being from Texas, being a former Husker, being a Texas high school football coach, and now seeing them come back here and making Texas important, making recruiting Texas a big deal. And man, and we as a Nebraska fan base and Nebraska in general with Susan, Dr. Elza, I mean, we struck gold there because this woman, she is everything as advertised. Like she was the head of the UIL. So every single high school coach in this state respects her. She is genuine. We trust her. Whatever she says is gold. And so now you have Susan Elza, who has the respect of every high school coach in Texas. She come down here, whatever she says go. She sends somebody down here, and if any coach is unsure about anything, we have her number. We call like, hey, so and so, like, okay, coach, trust it, they're good. Elza said yes, okay, we good. Bye. Like, so you have somebody like that has the respect of all these high school coaches. Now you have, the recruiters coming down. I think Terrence Knighton was down here not long ago. And now you got all these coaches from Nebraska coming down here, with that, stamp of approval from all the high school coaches that we've gotten from Susan, Dr. Elza. And so it's really big that now we're going to be able to recruit Texas a lot heavier than what we've been able to do in the past, because for one, it's become more important. It's become really, really important. So now they are coming down more. And I always kind of not regret, I used to hate that we left the Big 12, because I felt like when we left the Big 12, now we can't recruit Texas as much, because when I was being recruited and we was in the Big 12, like, Coach Jordan or Coach Gill and them, they come down to my house and like, hey, you are guaranteed to see your son play in Texas at least twice, 2 to 3 times a year. So you're going to see him there. I mean, we don't have that recruiting tool now. We can't guarantee parents that. So how else get them there? And so I think the approach that they're using now, with the high school coaches and being down here and being present, is going to go a long way. And it already has with, we just got a recruit last week from down here in Texas. Yeah. Right here, yeah.
So, first commit out of 2024 is Roger Gradney from Altair, Texas, 4-star athlete. And that's exactly kind of that was going to be my question there is, if you want to improve in an area, recruiting in an area, by all means, it seems natural to go and get an assistant coach that has experience over there. That makes sense. You see that all the time. This feels like a little different approach that, I'll be honest with you, I'd never heard of what the University Interscholastic League of Texas was before Dr. Elza was hired here, but it seems like a really big hire, and kind of one that in some circles could go under the radar, or to go after Bob Wager and to get a sitting head coach who has had 20 years of experience and success coaching right in it. So you're not grabbing a college assistant there. You're going in, you're getting right into the heart of it and taking people out of it that have all the connections. And I mean, immediately, for what it's worth, we got 2 recruits right out of Coach Wager's old team in Arlington. One of them was an Iowa legacy. So 2 immediate recruits in the last class. So I'm interested, you've already kind of made, what is the University Interscholastic League? I'm not even familiar with what that is, but it seems like it's a really big deal.
Oh, it is. It's huge. And it's kind of like the NCAA of football. Okay. It's the NCAA of all high school sports in Texas. And so it's really just kind of our governing body. And so now you can't have kids move to different schools just because, okay, that school is not as good, so I'm going to go to this school so we can make this school really good. So now you have to live in a attendance zone, and if you move like you have to send your paperwork to the UIL. They have to verify. They have to check it. Coaches have to go out and do home visits and make sure you live at those places. So it's really just to kind of govern high school sports and just kind of keep it pure and not have like super teams and all these type of things. So it's really just kind of regulating our governing body over Texas high school sports. So really the NCAA of high school football.
Okay. Well, here's Stephen Costello writes, and he goes, "I can't wait to go meet the coaches in San Antonio during these clinics. Will you be heading down to San Antonio for those clinics?"
Oh yeah, I'm there every year. It's me and about 10, 12,000 coaches there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's not even just football coaches. Majority of them, yes, football coaches, but I mean, you get volleyball coaches and coaches of other sports, track coaches and everything. But yeah, I mean, to have 10, 12,000 coaches in one place, and majority of them, over half of them are football coaches. I mean, it's a great time. It's a fun time. It's a lot of knowledge, and man, it's good. And you get some of the college coaches that come down because they either speak, they know it's important. I'm sure Dr. Elza will be down. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk when Coach Rhule was at Baylor, how successful he was within the high school ranks there, like really, really making deep connections. Were you at Cypress-Fairbanks at that time, or do you know some of the coaches that were like? Did they have what's the connections of people that had met with Rhule back in the Baylor days, and what are the thoughts towards Coach Rhule from the coaches you've talked to?
So I know the coaches here. A couple of coaches that's here. The coaches that was here when he was at Baylor are no longer here at this school, but some of the coaches that are here now, they were at other schools, so they had interactions with Coach Rhule, and man, it's just nothing but good things to say about him. Like one of the coaches that Coach Rink's son, actually his dad, or Big Rink, he coached with McGuire.
Okay.
Now coached at Cedar Hill together, and so they talk about Rhule and how he was and how he carried himself and how he ran a program and how he recruited, and they all kind of and all of them, and they respect him, and they understand like he does things the right way. So I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about him, and so it really helps us if one of our kids get offered and our kid really likes it. Obviously, we don't want to force our kids on anything, but if they really likes it, we're coming to say like, okay, he's going to take care of you. You're good. You're not going to be worried about if he's being taken care of with being so far away from home. And that's one of the biggest things. But being from Texas, recruiting Texas, sending our kids somewhere that far, like, are they going to be okay? Are they going to be taken care of? Because that's what you kind of worry about. We know our kids are going to be okay, and that's one of the main things with having Elza and Rhule and all those guys up there.
Well, this is great. I mean, I'm at a point now. I don't know if I have the next question here, but I really appreciate you taking all this time, Cody. This has been a lot of fun here. I guess maybe just very kind of open-ended way. What are you excited about right now this offseason? What are you excited about Coach Rhule? What are you excited about the next era of Husker football?
Man, I think really with this year, I've been a lot more, in tune what's been going on than I have been in the past. And I think I was telling somebody, maybe it was Bland or somebody, it'd be nice just to be able to root for Nebraska. I mean, I root for them, but like to be able to, coach's office with a bunch of former players and stuff. Talk a little trash a little bit. It's hard to talk trash when you're getting your head beat in every other week or something. But whenever we actually competitive again and we win it, like now I can actually talk a little noise to some of these guys and be able to back it up a little bit. And so that's one of the things I'm excited about. And even my son Champ, I got my 4-year-old son Champ. Every time he sees something red or a red flag, he's like, "Go Big Red!" And so like, I'm ready to be at like, hey, champ, Nebraska's playing, like we're winning, give him his little, Glenn jersey with dad on the back and all that, and just, be proud of it, proud about it again, So I think with this new staff, they're bringing it back. I think with the recruits that they're bringing in, and really just what Coach Rhule does, not even offensive, just as a program with the people that he bring in and how he carries himself, how he carries a program. And I think that's what's going to allow them to be successful more than X's and O's. Just really, like you already said, like we are a team first. We're going to build from there. And that's, staying together and doing things together and building the program that way. I can already see that that's going to allow us some success. And that's going to carry over to the field, and it's going to make me happy because I can talk a little trash to these people. Freaking Michigan and Texas and all these other people in here talking stuff. So I think I'm looking forward to that more than anything, just talking a little trash.
Do you have any are there like Husker Watch sites or anything that you do down there to get with other Husker fans during games or anything?
Yeah, we always have Texans for Nebraskans, and we always it's like a Fox and Hound down here that we go to and watch the games and stuff like that. And one of the guys I played with, David Harvey, tight end out of Maryland.
Yep.
He lives down here too, so me and him would go watch the game and stuff like that. But so I try to, as many Nebraska people that I can find, I want to go watch it, with them. So it's awesome. But most Saturdays we work, like Texas coaches in Texas, we work 7 days a week during the football season, even on Sundays. So whenever we do get off, then we try to go watch as much as we can.
Well, thank you so much, Cody. It is a tradition on the forum, on the Redcast when we do it, to give our guests the final say. So it's all yours. You get the parting shot. Take us out of here.
Oh man, I just appreciate you for having me. I'm looking forward to this season, and after we go and we have a good season, have me back on so we can I can tell you how much trash I talk to these guys here in the office, and maybe I have one over here with me so they can I make a bet with them, say, hey, if we beat y'all got to come on the Go Big Redcast and tell us how awesome Nebraska is.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to have you back on. If you're whenever you come up to Lincoln too, let us know, man. I'd love to go hang out with you for a bit. So this has been a lot of fun. And just remember out there, Redcasters, you too could be the next one to join us on the forum.
A Herd at Sports Network production.